Good morning, children. So here we have next chapter, that is My Childhood, unit number 6. Now this chapter is an extract taken from autobiography of APJ Abdul Kalam, Wings of Fire. APJ Abdul Kalam, he became the 11th President of India on 25th July 2002. His hard work, sincerity, and dedication made him a world class scientist. In this chapter, he describes his house, family, friends, and teachers. He also mentioned how he earned his first wages. During his childhood, he faced religious discrimination but was able to overcome it with the support of some progressive people. The motivation given by his father and teacher, science teacher especially, to pursue his goal made him a great scientist in the future. So, My Childhood by APJ Abdul Kalam. You can see the picture. APJ Abdul Kalam was born into a middle class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram in the erstwhile Madras state. He was born in 1931. His father was not much educated, but he had great wisdom and generosity. He was not rich, but he provided Kalam a very secure childhood. And his mother, very loving, very caring. So he has a very beautiful family, a loving family. His father, Jainul Abidin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth, means he was not so rich also. Despite these all disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in Abdul Kalam's mother, Ashima. Abdul Kalam says that he did not recall the exact number of people his mother fed every day, but he was quite certain that far more outsider ate with us than all the number of our own family put together. He says, I do not recall the exact number of people she fed. She means mother fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsider ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. So his mother was so kind, so good, and father also believed in goodness and deep kindness. That is why they were always giving, donating, or because of their generosity, many people were daily getting food in his family. So here everything is, because this is a autobiography, the extract from autobiography. So you will find all the lines, all the statements are given with the first person, means I, because Abdul Kalam is only explaining everything about his own life. Okay, so he says that he number of people, the exact number he cannot say, because every time changing. So, but number of people are coming and getting food in his family, in his house. Now, Abdul Kalam says, I was one of the children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to tall and handsome parents. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. Now, here he is explaining about his own personality. So, he was one of the children, means there were other children also. And his height was not so good. He was a short heighted person, though his parents were very nice, means father was very handsome and mother was very beautiful. But then he remained short height person. He was not so tall, not so attractive, a normal, ordinary personality he has. Okay. And his house was very old house. And that was all, though it's a pakka house, but then the house was a old one which was built in the middle of 19th century. It was a fairly large pakka house made up of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. My Austrian father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. Now here he explains about the house. The house was pakka house made up of means constructed by limestone and brick. Okay, so a good house. And his father was very disciplined person, and he was always trying to save money. So unnecessary comforts and luxuries, he was not at all interested and believe in buying the things just for comfort and or in the name of luxury. Okay, he believed in high thinking and simple living. Now, however, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine, clothes. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. So, parents very responsible, very loving, very caring, providing all the facilities and comfort to Abdul Kalam. So, here you can see the scene Hovercraft Kalam with Krishna Menon. So, like that, he was having a very secure and nice childhood. Now, the Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old. For a reason I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seed erupted in the market. So, during the during the Second World War, during the Second World War, a state of emergency was declared. Okay, and he was just 8 year old, and then suddenly he found that there was a demand of tamarind seed. Tamarind seed, that suddenly the demand increased. Okay, so here the quotation of Abdul Kalam you can see on the picture. You cannot change your future, but you can change your habit, and surely your habit will change your future. This is very useful quote. I think you can use for your life if you want to change anything, if you want to do something, if you want to achieve something in the special. Very important that you don't try to change your future, you just try work on yourself, work and change your habits. Once your habit is changed, automatically your future will be changed. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to a provision shop on Mosque Street. A day's collection would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna, you can say. So what he was doing in the Second World War, there was change in the there was demand, there was increase in the demand of tamarind seed. So he understood the chance to earn money. So he was collecting that tamarind and selling them into the shop on Mosque Street, and he was getting good income by selling tamarind. My brother-in-law, Jalaluddin, would tell me stories about the war which I would later attempt to trace in the headline in Dinamani. Our area, being isolated, was completely unaffected by the war. His brother used to tell the story about the war, okay, and which I would later attempt to trace in the headline. Whatever other brother was telling, the incident, the things, the important things of the war, what Jalaluddin was telling to Abdul Kalam, and later Abdul Kalam was trying to find out those stories in the paper. Since the his area where Kalam was living, that was unaffected by the war, that was in just isolated in a like in the corner of the coastal area, so it was totally unaffected by the war. But soon India was forced to join the Allied forces, and something like a state of emergency was declared. And then suddenly there was a need of forces. So India also joined World War, and people were asked to join army. The first casualty came in the form of suspension of the train halt at Rameswaram station. So in the Second World War, when India joined the war, and India participated through or from the side of Allied forces, the adverse effect of that, you can say, occurred in that place where Kalam was living. And what was the impact? That the train which was coming, and there was a station in Rameshwaram. That station was cancelled for the train. Now the train was not stopping in that Rameshwaram. Okay. The newspaper now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dhanushkoti. So what was the result? Because the train was not stopping there, so the newspaper bundle, the bundle was thrown out from the moving train on the road, and that road in which area? Between Rameshwaram and Dhanushkoti. So newspaper that was thrown to them on the road. That forced my cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspaper in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundle, and as if naturally I filled the slot. So because the Rameshwaram station was cancelled, now the train was not stopping there. So while going to the train, the newspaper bundle was thrown on the road. So the cousin of Kalam, Samsuddin, he was taking care of those newspaper, and then he was in need of another hand. And so Abdul Kalam got that chance to work under him. Samsuddin helped him earn my first wages. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. So when Abdul Kalam tried to help Samsuddin, he managed to earn his first income, and he was very happy after earning that first income. And Abdul Kalam says that even now, when I remember those days, even now I feel pride for earning my first income. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment, and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. Every child is unique in a unique, and particularly having some peculiar characteristics. And that was due to the specific socio-economic and emotional environment. Okay, so Abdul Kalam was also trained in certain ways by figures of authority. According to the society and economic condition and emotional environment, Abdul Kalam also trained, also developed in a particular way. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father. What was his main characteristics? That he was very honest plus self-discipline. And how he got these two characteristics? From his father and also from his mother. I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my three brothers and sister. So all the Kalam and all his brother and sister, everyone inherited these all qualities: honesty, self-discipline from father, faith in goodness and kindness. That also was main characteristics of Abdul Kalam. I had three close friends in my childhood. Okay, you can see the name here: Ramanatha Shastri, Arvindan, and Shiv Prakashan. All these boys were from Orthodox Hindu Brahmin family. Now, Abdul Kalam is telling about his three friends. All the three friends were from Brahmin family, Orthodox, very strict Brahmin family. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious difference and upbringing. All these four group boys were very good friends, and there was no difference, and they were not considering any religious difference. And in fact, Ramanatha Shastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri and the high priest of Rameshwaram temple. Though Ramanatha Shastri, he was the son of the highest priest of Rameshwaram temple. But then also, they were not having any kind of difference among them. Later, he took over the priesthood of Rameshwaram temple from his father. Arvindan went into the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims. Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railway. When they all grown up, Shastri, he took the priesthood, and his one friend was in business of transport, and third one was a catering contractor. During the annual Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam ceremony, our family used to arrange boats with a special platform for carrying idols of the Lord from the temple to the marriage site, situated in the middle of the pond called Ramatirtha, which was near our house. So there was always a ceremony of Sita Ram Kalyanam, means marriage of Sita Ram, and there they are arranging boat, okay, with a special platform to carry the idols of the Ram. Even from the Ramayana and from the life of prophet were the bedtime stories my mother and grandmother would tell the children in our family. In the night time, mother and grandmother, they were both telling stories from Ramayana and the other prophet. One day when I was in the 5th standard at the Rameshwaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to our class. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim, and I always sat in front row next to Ramanatha Shastri, who wore the sacred thread. So one day when there was one new teacher, okay, and Abdul Kalam with his friend, they were sitting in the front, and Abdul Kalam was always having a cap that shows that he belongs to Muslim caste, Muslim religion. Okay, and he was always sitting with the Shastri, Ramanatha Shastri, who was always wearing a sacred thread. So there was a boy who was from Brahmin family with the with the sacred thread, and there was and Abdul Kalam, who was sitting there from the Muslim family with the cap. The new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit on the back bench. So that teacher didn't like that Hindu and Muslim both were sitting together and so close. So he asked Abdul Kalam to go and sit on the last bench. I felt very sad, and so did Ramananda Sastri. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted to my seat in the last row. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row left a lasting impression on me. So when teacher punished me and asked me to sit at the last bench, at the last place, my friend Ramananda, even I felt bad, and my friend also started crying, and he was very upset that his friend was sent back. After school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident. Lakshmana Shastri summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that he should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. So after the school, when we went home, we complained to parents. Then Lakshmana Shastri called the teacher and scolded the teacher and asked the teacher not to spread this kind of communal disbelief or discrimination in the mind of innocent children. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school and the island. Not only did the teacher regret his behavior, but the strong sense of conviction Lakshmana Shastri conveyed ultimately reformed this young teacher. So the scolding of Lakshmana Shastri changed that attitude of teacher, and the teacher realized his mistake. And not only the teacher, even all the children, they also understood that there is no such kind of discrimination, and they ultimately, this point has reformed these young children's mind. On the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of the segregation of different social groups. There was no social discrimination. There was the small society, and they were not believing in social discrimination. However, my science teacher, Shiva Subramania Iyer, though an orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. But that science teacher, he was a kind of rebel. He didn't believe in that. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying background could mingle easily. He used hours with me and would say, Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of big cities. So that science teacher was always believing in equality. So the society who were believing in this kind of discrimination, he decided to change them. And he always tried that people from different background could mingle and could play together. And he always asked Kalam that you must develop your mind and yourself in so much that you can go for higher education. One day he invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually pure kitchen. She refused to serve me in her kitchen. So one day when the science teacher invited him, he was a Muslim boy and he was invited in that family for the food, for the meal. But that woman, the wife of that science teacher, was very conservative and she was horrified seeing that a Muslim boy is sitting and eating there. And then she refused to serve him in her kitchen. So Shiva Subramania Iyer, the science teacher, was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife. He didn't express anything. Instead, served me served me with his own hand and sat down beside me to eat his meal. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. So that science teacher didn't get angry, okay, and instead of getting angry, that science teacher served food to me and even sat with me and ate food with me. I wondered whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor after the meal. When I was leaving his house, Shiva Subramania Iyer invited me to join him for dinner again the next weekend. So again, Abdul Kalam was thinking that this lady this lady found any difference in my behavior, in my eating pattern, the way I am eating and the way all are eating are the same. So what is the difference? And then when he was going, that science teacher again invited him for the dinner next week. Observing my hesitation, he told not to get upset, saying, once you decide to change the system, such problems have to be confronted. So when he was little hesitated, Abdul Kalam was a little hesitating. So he said that once you decide to change any wrong thing, at the starting there will be some people who will react like that, who will be getting angry with the change. So when I visited his house the next week, Shiva Subramania Iyer, wife, took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hand. So there was a big change when I came there for the food. This time, Shiva Subramania Iyer's wife served me, took me in the kitchen, and she only served me and with her own hand. So her behavior was totally changed. Then the Second World War was over and India's freedom was imminent. Indians will build their own India, declared Gandhiji, and the whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. So there was Second World War was over, and India was having a kind of optimism in whole country. I asked my father for permission to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramanathanpuram. He told me, as if thinking aloud, Abul, I know you have to go away to grow. Does the seagull not fly across the sun alone and without a nest? So when he asked father that please give me permission, I want to go to big city to grow. So father said that I know you have to go away to grow. If you want to grow, you have to go away. You have to go to city. Okay. So seagull not fly across the sun, because seagull who knows how to fly can fly here, can fly there, can fly anywhere, even across the sun, alone, without a nest. So like seagull, you also, wherever you go, you will grow and you will become a successful person. He quoted Khalil Gibran to my hesitant mother. But mother was not that much ready to send me outside. So then he quoted Khalil Gibran quote, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. So Khalil Gibran said, children were not your children. They are just they are the children of life, and they came through you, but they have right to you have right to love them. But you cannot impose your thought on them, because they have their own thought. So with this lesson, which is very important lesson, is over, and I am very sure you understood and acknowledge the value, the work, the simplicity and the greatness of this great man, Abdul Kalam. So APJ Abdul Kalam, the speaker, because this extract was from his autobiography, so Abdul Kalam was the speaker only. He lived in the Pakka house of brick and limestone, which was very large. His father was full of man of wisdom. Mother was very kind, very loving. And in the family, there was always outside other people are coming and eating. Though his father was not so rich, but his all uh, needs were nicely fulfilled, and all the emotional and financial and material, all the needs were, all the security were provided to him. And he had a very, you can say, he was blessed with the good friends. The friends, though they were from Brahmin family, but then all were behaving in a very good way, and there was no discrimination. So his childhood was is not about growth, but his childhood was getting the right value at the right time. He was getting good values from his parent, from the other people also. Okay, so he was a man of great values, and he learned, or he acquired all these values from his family, from his village, from his friends, from the people around, people from his village, and that is why he developed as a great man. And later, you know that he created wonders, and he was so popular and children were very fond of him, right? And he was a great scientist, and he became the 11th president of India. So we are all grateful to Abdul Kalam, and we feel that he is, though he is not there, but still his all teachings, his all, you can say, all the preachings still are working in our mind, in our heart, and we are all following his values, his teachings. So I hope, children, you enjoyed, and I want you to go through the lesson, read this chapter again and again, because this is lengthy chapter, and though lengthy but very important. And I hope, I'm very sure you will enjoy reading this chapter, and also later when you will get chance, you must buy that autobiography, Wings of Fire. That book is also very beautiful, very nice. You will love that book. Okay, so thank you so much.